Okay, we are now live.
All right, let's give people a chance to meander in. Borough Administrator, if you could tell me when the counting of people entering has quieted down, and we'll get started.
Sure. It's not a rapid influx, but people are dripping in.
All right, well then let's get started. This meeting is called to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. An annual notice of this meeting was provided to the Home News Tribune, the Star Ledger, and the Highland Park Planet on January 6th, 2021. In addition, notice of this meeting via Zoom was faxed to the Home News Tribune and emailed to the Star Ledger and the Highland Park Planet on April 30th, 2021, and was posted on the Borough Hall bulletin board at Borough Hall, 221 South Fifth Avenue, Highland Park, New Jersey, and on the website at www.hpboro.com. And the posting at the Borough Hall building has been on April 30th, 2021, and has remained continuously posted as required by law. As mayor, I preside over the council meeting and may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant statement or participation in the virtual meeting if the participant statement does not adhere to the 3 minutes provided to each participant for public comment, or if the attachment is abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Councilman Hirsch, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Thank you, Mayor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Brill-Mittler,
Here.
Councilwoman Canavera,
Here.
Councilwoman Foster,
Here.
Councilman George,
Here.
Councilman Hale,
Here.
Councilmember Hirsch,
Here,
Councilwoman Kim Chohan,
Here.
Borough Attorney Schmier,
Here.
Borough Administrator Hover.
Here.
All right. Do any of the council members have any questions on tonight's agendas?
No question.
Okay, then we'll move on. Tonight, I have a proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Week. Whereas the United States Surgeon General's report on mental health has concluded that mental health is an essential component of overall health and well-being. And whereas for more than 50 years, Mental Health America has proclaimed May as Mental Health Awareness Month to raise awareness about mental health, combat the social stigma and discrimination associated with mental illness that often prevents people from seeking help, promote a message of hope and recovery, and celebrate consumer strength and resilience. And whereas people with mental illness and addiction recover if given the necessary supports and services in the community, yet many avoid seeking help due to stigma and the fear of discrimination. And whereas Middlesex County recognizes the stigma associated with mental illness and addiction and acknowledges that many people may remain unserved because of the stigma of seeking help, this month we call attention to this so that we can bring mental illness and addiction out of the shadows and encourage treatment and support. We acknowledge the greater public awareness about mental health and addiction recovery can change negative attitudes and behaviors. Whereas Middlesex County stands with those impacted by behavioral health challenges and pledges to increase awareness and greater understanding of these conditions, we will work to reduce stigma and discrimination and increase appropriate accessible supports and services. We will strive to promote a message of hope and the belief that healing and recovery are sustainable. And I do therefore hereby proclaim the month of May 2021 Mental Health Awareness Month. And I do also want to thank the volunteers who are working on our Mental Health Commission, which is chaired by Ms. Ruth Beyer, for all their work and commitment to this issue. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular work session meetings held April 6th, 2021 as distributed?
So
Motion?
moved. So moved. Second.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
I was absent, so I'm going to abstain.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay. We'll go now to our council reports, and as usual, I will begin in the order you appear on the screen on my computer. Councilwoman Kim Chohan, do you have a report?
Yes, brief report, friendly reminder, May tax payments are now due. And also, speaking of taxes, the deadlines to file and pay most federal income taxes are extended to May 17th, 2021. Also, we will have our public hearing on our municipal budget. We have our professionals here with us, joining us as well. And then really brief report tonight. Lastly, May is Asian American Pacific Islanders Month, and 1992, the official designation of May as AAPI Heritage Month was signed into law. The month of May was chosen to commemorate the immigration of the first Japanese to the United States on May 7th, 1843. And the AAPI community is not the only one celebrating Heritage this month. It's also Jewish American Heritage Month. In 2006, President George W. Bush wanted to proclaim, sorry, my sister spelled it wrong, proclaim a month that would recognize the more than 350-year history of Jewish contributions to America and the American culture. The hashtag #MyJewishHeritage has been trending on TikTok with 9 million views and counting. So I encourage all the TikTokers and HP to go over and view the hashtag. And that's my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Foster, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, it's very brief. As I reported last month that May is Autism Awareness Month. And with that said, our police department have taken great strides. They have done on Facebook, they have posted a lot of information. They have a banner that they put together. I know in previous years, they had t-shirts that was done and they wanted us to put a decal on one of the cars, and to really get into the swing of things and to bring awareness to people who suffer from autism or who has autism. There is a directive number 62. And what that provides is a sensory bag that if a phone call is made and they go to a house with someone that suffers or has autism, that there are calming devices that the officers can provide to bring calmness to a situation that's going on in the home. These are not permanent to leave at the home, but it's to calm the situation while they're there. So for example, if they were communicating with either kids or adults, such items such as a fidget spinner that tends to calm people down, a fidget block that tends to focus and calm people down. They have like headphones and sunglasses and any kind of calming device that will bring calmness to a situation. They have received that and they have it in their cars and they'll be using them as they go out. So it's a great addition for our department to have during Autism Awareness Month. There are some videos that we have and we will be happy, the PD will be happy to share those videos with everyone on their Facebook page and other places to bring more awareness and to see how the whole system work with calming people down when they approach. Or just if you want to learn more, this information will be available. Also, on tonight's agenda, we have there's going to be that our police department have received more body-worn cameras. So they'll have more body-worn cameras that they'll have available to them, which is great. And then to be much more transparent, because one of the things that we talk about all the time is transparency. So this will bring about more transparency as we move along. That's pretty much my report. I guess Terry is going to talk a little bit about this. We are in our public safety meeting. We have been discussing the deer situation and we will have more information provided, but we have been looking into it and we have been having active conversation because this is a time of year when they are out and about. And I know it has caused just about everyone in the state of New Jersey great anxiety and great stress with the deer population. It's not something that's a Highland Park issue. I think it's a statewide issue and it's something that needs to be done on a much higher level than us, but we are working diligently to make sure that we can put rules and regs in place so we can try to control the population here. With that said, that's my report for now.
And Councilwoman Foster, I believe the chief is here. Did you want him?
Oh, yes, that's why I was yielding a part of my time. But at this time, I have our Chief Abrams that is going to share a little bit with us about what's going on in the PD, additional information. Chief?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't see you though.
So in addition to the sensory bags, which is something brand new that was just instituted this week, we have another directive that we started in the borough called HP Safe. It's a new program and it's a registry for anyone who has any kind of communication disability in town. It's voluntary if somebody wants to sign themselves up or a family member. It contains some detailed information about the person, for example, a current photograph, medical concerns, best ways to communicate, any known stressors or stress reducers. And this goes hand in hand with the sensory bags. It provides officers quick access to vital information when dealing with anyone who has any kind of communication disability. It will keep things at a calmer level and help everybody stay safe, stay close together, and resolve any kind of situations that need it. Anybody can go to our website under the Borough website. So it's www.hpboro.com /HP Safe. Or you can go to under the police directory in the HP Borough website and you'll see programs. You can click on HP Safe and you can print out the PDF. You can drop it off at our headquarters whenever you want. Or you can bring it to our police headquarters and give it to the dispatcher and it will be filed. The information stays confidential. Nothing gets released until a call involving somebody on the registry happens. And our computer is smart enough to spit out that information for our dispatcher to look it up and relay that to the officer who's responding to any kind of call with somebody who's in crisis. It's a brand new program. It just started off last month. So we're pretty excited with that and the combination of the sensory bags to be able to help the residents in our town that have issues communicating with anyone who's they're not familiar with.
Chief, could you also, I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm tapping into my report again. Chief, could you also talk a little bit about where we are with the stops and what we are doing with Rutgers and where are they in the process?
Yeah, we had a phone call with Rutgers today. Actually, we were back and forth on the phone with them a few times. They're going to get us a timeline with some benchmarks. In the meantime, they are crunching our data. We have to now wash some of the stuff that we have with their assistance to find out, to compare the data that we gave them and then run that through when officers were working regular shift versus an off-duty shift or extra duty when there was a staffing shortage. So we're doing that now. That's going to take a little bit. But I'm not sure when they're going to be through this first stage, but once the first stage is through, then and they have a system down, the rest of it shouldn't be that long.
Okay. Elsie, are you done with your report?
Tara, I think, have a question.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to her. But you're done, right?
That's my report for now.
Okay, thank you. Tara, did you have a question?
I do. I just wanted to ask the chief, is this replacing the special needs registry or just part of this, like
this is going to replace it. What we already had would transition into it, but the special needs registry kind of faded away. We stopped getting people involved. People stopped coming to us to register. So we tried to revamp it under this SAFE directed. SAFE stands for Secure Awareness for First Encounters. When you do register, not only does your information go in the computer, but we'll give you stickers, small stickers that you can place on your car or on a window by your door that'll let the officer know as they approach that someone involved may have a communication disability, and kind of just prime them for a good response. Let them know kind of what they're walking into a little bit more. And then if it doesn't pop up, the dispatcher can always look up that information on the confidential list to get it. So this is an evolution of our special needs registry.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Tara, why don't you go right into your report?
Okay. As the mayor has mentioned, May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'd like to focus on us as a community trying to take that stigma away that comes with a mental health diagnosis. The Mental Health Commission will be hosting wellness tables at the library, the high school, and the farmers market on May 14th, 21st, and 28th. So we encourage everybody to please stop by for information. We'll have information for local resources, self-care tips, and much more. Anybody with who is in a mental health crisis can please reach out for help at the Middlesex County Crisis Hotlines. Rutgers UBHC is 855-515-5700. Raritan Bay Medical Center's hotline is 732-442-3794. And I just found out about a new resource for our youth between the ages of 10 and 24 who live in New Jersey and need to talk about any problems. You can either call 888-222-2228 anytime, day or night, or since most adolescents and youth prefer to text, you can also text them at 888, well, actually it's the same number, 222-2228. So I hope that any youth who may be suffering will reach out. The Housing Authority would like residents to be aware of the Middlesex County Emergency Rental Assistance Program. You can learn more about this program by visiting Middlesex, COUNTYNJ.gov/rental assistance for more information. The Human Relations Commission appointed a new chair, Norma Goldberg, and a vice chair, Austin Morale. This appointment was due to Ashton Burrell stepping down as chair. Ashton has been a dedicated leader for many years, and it's been a pleasure to work with him over the years. And we thank Ashton for all he continues to do to serve Highland Park, especially our youth. The Board of Health would like to remind you to please continue wearing masks and social distancing and continue to sign up for vaccines. There also walk-ins available at a lot of locations right now. Food insecurity is still at an all-time high. We have the community food pantry, which is open the second and fourth Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10:45, and 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the second and fourth Thursday, and Saturdays from 9:30 to 10:30. You can donate by visiting their Amazon wish list. The Highland Park Gives a Hoot food pantry is open from 10 a.m. until 11 a.m. and donations can be made by making a check to the borough, and in the memo put Highland Park Gives a Hoot. Between these two programs, we have been serving over 300 families here in Highland Park. And today, May 4th, is also National Teacher Appreciation Day, and I'd like to thank all of the teachers out there for all you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Canavera. Councilman Hirsch, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, I think. So we have many more days to celebrate too. I know my kids at Bartle are doing a special project for their teachers. My kid, sorry, I have one kid at Bartle. It's also Firefighter Appreciation Day, so thank you for your service. And just on a slightly lighter note, in honor, since we're commemorating all these things, important things, this is the least important, to honor May 4th. You might have seen, there's a Star Wars theme to today. May the 4th be with you. But it's also 5/4, and I would like to acknowledge a few of my favorite songs that were written in the 5/4 time signature. The theme to Mission Impossible, Radiohead's 15 Step and Morning Bell, XTC's English Roundabout, Soundgarden's My Wave. So if you would like that playlist, please contact me, and you can revel in the 5/4 odd time signature rock and roll songs. On to more serious business, though. The Doughboy statue at the corner of Woodbridge Avenue, and Raritan Ave, was taken out by a tractor trailer last fall. I think we all remember. And I am happy to report that we've found a contractor to restore the statue and place it back on its pedestal in the center of town. I reported at the last meeting that the goal was to have the restoration complete by Memorial Day, and we're still on track for that. No promises, because things can come up, but we are very much on track to meet that goal, and I'll keep everyone posted on the timeline. COVID testing at the community center due to high demand. The Borough of Highland Park's in-town COVID has expanded hours now. It's Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, no Thursday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. The testing is administered by Ridgewood Lab, and they're on site at the community center at 220 South 6th Avenue. Participants with and without insurance can get tested, and minors are eligible to be tested provided that they have a parent or guardian present. More information on this program can be found at www.hpboro.com. Reservations are encouraged, but walk-ins are welcome as well. And speaking of walk-ins, after a comprehensive, aggressive, and robust vaccination effort, appointment effort by a really stellar team of volunteers and Kim McGraw at the community center, we are Governor Murphy did announce that the state's mega sites are now available for walk-in vaccinations. So you really have no excuse. And as Tara mentioned, there are other sites like our local Rite Aid where you can get an appointment and get a vaccine right then and there. If you are going to walk into the mega site at Raritan Center in Edison, it is open 7 days a week, and they administer the vaccines from 8 a.m. to noon. But when I called, they told me to, if you are walking in, to probably get there around 9 a.m. because 8 a.m. is when the appointments are. So you're free to walk in, but you may have to wait a little bit. After 9, they said it really does clear out. Find out more information on how to get a vaccine appointment at covid19.nj.gov/vaccine finder. Highland Park Summer Camp Scholarships. This is great. The HP Gives a Hoot scholarships were awarded last week to 20 children who will be provided 4 free weeks of summer camp to income eligible Highland Park residents. Thank you so much, Highland Park Gives a Hoot. You are you're always there when we need you, and you've come through for the community in big ways outside of I think your initial charter. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, HP Gives a Hoot. We do have another donor fund at the Rec Center, the Eric and Suzanne Krebs Scholarship Fund, which will award additional scholarships to families who qualify for free and reduced lunch. So far, we've added 8 participants, but additional scholarships remain. And for more information and to apply, email hprecreation@hpboro.com. Spread the word to anyone that you think might benefit from these scholarships. You can apply for a scholarship for your own child to attend 4 free weeks of camp. That includes day camp, sports camp, or theater camp. It's open to all Highland Park families that qualify for free or reduced lunch. And please spread the word to anyone who you think might benefit from these scholarships. In addition to the 24-week scholarships that HP Gives a Hoot is providing, there are additional scholarships available, which we just discussed. Highland Park summer camp registrations are now open. You can register at highlandparkrec.com. And that is my report, Mayor.
Thank you. And Councilman Hale, are you, do you have a report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So PSE&G is.
I would like to say something, Mayor.
Okay,
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm not feeling well, so I'm going to be off camera.
okay. I
I
hope
have
you
a
feel
ripping
better.
headache, so I'll be listening, but I will not be on camera.
Okay, will you be able to vote if a vote comes up, Elsie? Okay, feel better. Thank you. Matt?
Please feel better, Elsie. So I wanted to let everybody know that PSE&G is going to be doing some road work on South 3rd. And that means that we're temporarily going to have to close the town tables from May 10th to May 12th. As most people know, the timing of PSE&G is not always so precise. We hope it's May 10th to May 12th, but we'll get the tables back up as soon as possible, as soon as the PSE&G work is completed. Also wanted to make sure that our restaurants and all of our restaurant patrons know that the $28.6 billion restaurant revitalization fund from the American Rescue Plan is open for applications. They opened yesterday, actually, and the SBA is accepting applications. This is an enormous fund designed specifically for restaurants, and it is a fund, not a loan fund, but a gift fund to keep restaurants open. So I really do encourage all of our restaurants, and if you are in our restaurants, please let them know about it as well. You can find information at www.sba.gov for a list of funding programs. So it's specifically for our restaurants. Also, as a reminder, the Highland Park Farmers Market is back up and running. Yay. They'll be up on Fridays from 11 to 4:30. So stop by. I have not been able to go, but I hear that there is a distillery that is actually selling at the farmers market, which I think is quite exceptional. And then Matt stole a little bit of my thunder. I was going to do songs in 5/4, but I don't know what that means. I'm actually just really very excited that today is Happy Star Wars Day. So if you celebrate Star Wars Day, may the 4th be with you. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay, Council President, do you have a report?
Oh my God.
I do, Mayor. We, as a family, watched the first 2 episodes for 5/4 Day of the real Star Wars, although I am very much a fan of the second 3 with their very much Medici theming. PSE&G, as we know, is working on the south side. They've been on South First for a week. The work is progressing, and they have started on South Second now. As Councilman Hale mentioned, they will be starting on South Third. Right now, we don't know exactly what the timing will be. It may be a little bit more than the end by the town tables may not take that long. We don't know exactly when it will be. I talked with DPW today about the phasing, and they do indicate they hope to have it finished by the 12th, but we'll have to bear with it. And again, on the south side right now with them working on both South Second and South First, please be patient. We also have, if you notice, PSE&G, I'm sorry, Middlesex Water's contractor is still continuing to do the jetting. They're moving to the south side. So there's a lot of patience. That also brings up some questions I had from some residents about leaf and spring cleanup of your gardens, refuse from the gardens and leaves. We normally do that on Wednesdays. We have at least several of the crews who do refuse and recycling available on Wednesday. However, when the crews finish up their runs in the early afternoons, they will often pick up a truck and go to do garden recycling, leaf recycling, if they have time available. So that is not a consistent schedule, but our superintendent does have them out to do extra pickups. But ordinarily the day is Wednesday. But so far, it seems that they've actually been able to get there a little bit early. There is a lot of, I don't want to say conflict, but simply a lot of hustle and bustle on the streets with PSE&G, Middlesex Water, and recycling and refuse removal all at the same time. So everybody, please be patient. It's going to go on for at least a month. We're going to have to deal with it. We ask everybody's patience. If you do run into a problem where they have missed picking up your recycling or they've missed picking up your trash, please call recycling or send me an email and we will try to get that remedied. However, the crews know that there are problems. When PSE&G is paving a street or Middlesex Water is jetting, they may not be able to get down that street with one of our trucks that entire day. They will be back to get it. They have the routes marked. They mark it on a checkoff sheet. However, if they do miss for whatever the reason, please let someone know and we'll get a truck there right away. Sustainable Highland Park, last week at our meeting, we discussed Everyone's Farm, which is the local initiative run by Wendy Rosen for local gardening. We're seeing more and more and more of it pop up to the point where they actually got a table at Main Street for the next couple of farmers markets on Fridays, distributing information about Everyone's Farm. It is a local front yard verge and front steps planting. And after the meeting, I actually got an old ironing board, spray painted it some nice bright colors, and put my herb garden on the front porch on it. So it has a lot of interesting ideas on how we can, be more sustainable, and also a little more, especially in this time, although they say we might be loosening up, but in this time to have that little bit of enjoyment. The Environmental Commission will meet tomorrow night. At our last meeting, we discussed some older proposals for electric vehicles to be more electric vehicle friendly, especially in our zoning code. They've recommended that we polish them up and bring them to Public Works for discussion at the next Public Works meeting. The STAC has drawn up the tree planting contract with a much better management plan. We've had some discussions about managing the STAC meetings and moving the, because it's it's going to be complicated with the planting plans this year to manage STAC a little bit better. That's about it, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council President George. Borough Administrator, do you have a report?
I had two items which were covered. I'll just thank residents again for their patience as NAP works their way through town on the cleaning and jetting of the sewer system. We're also inspecting those. That's critical to our forthcoming asset management plan and our capital improvement planning for our sewer system. So we do appreciate the patience. And similarly with PSE&G, and I will tell you, they are really trying to minimize the disruption on South Third. And as long as the weather cooperates, I'm pretty confident they should be, unless they run into something in the field. The hope is to minimize that disruption to 3 days of next week. So just bear with us. adhere to all the signage that, you know, and take care, because there are workers in the roadways and we need to make sure they're safe as well. The only other thing I was going to mention was the rental assistance program that Middlesex County is offering, and the website, again, to reiterate Tara's report, middlesexcountynj.gov/rental assistance. And so I'd encourage you, if you're in need of assistance, or if you're a landlord who is in a situation, landlords can apply on behalf of tenants as well. So please take advantage, or if you know someone, please let them know of this resource. Thank you.
Okay. I have a report. Yes,
May I left out one quick thing. May I?
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. I just wanted to, Tara mentioned it, but I really did just want to emphasize, I wanted to congratulate Norma Vargas Greenberg and Austin Morial for their leadership roles on the HRC. Before I rejoined the council, I was on the Human Relations Commission, and I worked really closely with them, and I'm excited for their work as they lead us toward a more equitable Highland Park. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. So first I want to talk a little bit about the census. Last week, the entire country learned the results of the US 2020 census as it related to apportionment of congressional seats. As you probably are aware, 2 of our large neighboring states will each lose a congressional seat due to population declines. The results of the census in New Jersey bucked this trend in our neighboring states, with New Jersey showing a population gain and thus maintaining all 12 of our congressional seats. I believe that these results reflect the hard work of complete count teams throughout our state. And in that spirit, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our complete count committee chair, Mr. Udi Shore, and his active committee. They spearheaded the efforts to encourage residents to complete the census and kept the issue visible for many months, despite the pandemic. And their results were very impressive, with Highland Park residents responding at a rate that exceeded the prior 2010 census and exceeding the rate of response in New Jersey overall. As more 2020 data for Highland Park becomes available, it will help guide our future plans. So again, thank you to our complete count team and for their exceptional service. It really did make a big difference. Several of the council members and the borough administrator mentioned the new Middlesex County federal funding receipt. They got $24.6 million to assist people that are behind in rent for utilities like gas, electric, and water due to hardships created by COVID-19. The county has established this fund. I just want to tell you how important a fund it is. And the application process opened up yesterday on May 3rd. Eligible households, please feel free to apply for this funding. To be eligible for these funds, the person who is applying has to qualify for unemployment or have a reduction in household income that demonstrates a risk of homelessness or housing instability and has a household income at or below 80% of the area's median income. I know several people gave you that email address, but I do want to give it to you one more time slowly so you can copy it down as you hear it. It is www.middlesexcountynj.gov/rental, RENTAL, assistance, ASSISTANCE. Moving on to COVID-19 for a second, I want to thank all Highland Park residents who've completed their COVID-19 vaccination regimens. 40% of our adult population has completed their courses of vaccinations, and another 21% of our adult population has had at least 1 dose. As current rules limit vaccination to those over 16, it is essential that adults in our town step up and get their appointments and get vaccinated. Please do your part to protect children and others who cannot get vaccinated in our community by ensuring everyone eligible in your household gets vaccinated. The governor today announced some new relaxing of COVID restrictions. I just want to go through a few of them that are going into effect on Friday, May 7th. For outdoor gatherings, the limit will increase to 500 persons, up from 200. Of course, there is still a 6-foot social distance requirement. For large venue outdoor capacities, the maximum capacity allowed will increase to 50% for venues with 1,000 fixed seats or more, as long as 6 feet of distance is maintained. That is up from the 30% capacity for venues with that type of seating capacity. The capacity for indoor catered events, including proms, hello Highland Park, will be raised to 50%, up to a maximum of 250 individuals. The capacity limit for indoor political events, weddings, funerals, memorial services, and performances will also increase accordingly. Dance floors will be permitted to open at private catered events with masking and social distancing requirements in place. Dance floors would remain closed at bars and other related businesses such as nightclubs. Carnivals and fairs may now operate at the same capacity as large outdoor amusement gatherings. And that bodes well for our July 4th fireworks, which I believe are on July 7th.
July 1.
July 1, okay, July 1, thank you for that. The prohibition on indoor bar seating will be lifted with final guidance on necessary safeguards such as spacing and the use of plexiglass to follow, come from the New Jersey Department of Health. The restrictions on self-service food like buffets at restaurants would be lifted, but individuals will still be required to remain seated while eating and drinking. I do want to note that the governor added today that barring any uptick in cases, additional restrictions will be lifted or modified after May 19th. Finally, a bit of good news, another bit of good news. This past week, we were also pleased to learn that months earlier, Highland Park earned a notable distinction. On January 1st, a young couple from our own borough had the first baby born in Middlesex County in 2021. The baby was born at 12:05 a.m. at Raritan Bay Medical Center in Old Bridge. Highland Park residents Gina and John Kosinski were delighted to welcome baby Genevieve into their family. John and Gina dated in high school and married in October 2015. He is a teacher and she is a social worker. They first lived in Fords, but decided to move to Highland Park in 2018 after attending our annual street fair, where, as Gina describes it, quote, "We fell in love with the sense of community and culture," end quote. Genevieve joins three-year-old sister Jackie and is growing nicely. Gina reports that she just started sitting up on her own. So again, congratulations to Gina and John for the new arrival, and thanks for putting Highland Park in the record books. Okay, thank you all for clapping. You may unmute your clapping.
Future council meeting participant, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. Okay, Borough Attorney, I'm sorry I skipped you. Do you have a report?
No, Madam Mayor, no report this evening.
Okay, great. This is now the time we turn to our first public discussion session. The total time allotted is 21 minutes, 3 minutes maximum per speaker. Comments are limited to items that are on this agenda tonight. If you want to speak on an item that is not listed, we ask that you please do so at the second public comment session later in the meeting. The Borough Clerk will monitor the time and indicate when 3 minutes have lapsed. She will give you a warning when there are 30 seconds remaining. There will be a hard stop at the 3-minute mark to make sure everyone has time to speak. As a reminder, I may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement, or if it does not adhere to the 3 minutes provided, or if the statement is abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone keypad or select the press hand button on the application. The Borough Administrator will announce your turn by reading out your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number. Please begin by telling us your first and last name as well as your address. Again, if you would like to speak about a topic on the agenda, please press *9 or the raise hand button on your device now. And Borough Administrator, would you announce if there are any hands?
Sure, and just for the record, we have 6 attendees at the moment, and I do not see any hands raised at this point.
Okay, and we will move right along. We have an ordinance that requires second reading tonight. Clerk, could you please report on advertising the cap rate exception ordinance for consideration of passage on final reading by title?
Calendar year ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank was duly advertised for consideration of passage on final reading by title, and affidavits of publication thereto are on file. The ordinance was also posted and made available for public inspection as required by law.
Okay. May I have a motion to take up the ordinance on final reading by title?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Public hearing. Anybody have any questions from the public?
Again, members of the public, if you're interested in raising a point regarding this, you have to press *9 or the raise hand button. We're up to 7 attendees and no hands raised, Mayor.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution and advertise the ordinance on final reading by title?
Motion to adopt?
So second,
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution to authorize self-examination of the municipal budget in accordance with NJSA 40A:4-78B and NJAC 5:30-7?
So moved,
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Okay. Clerk, could you please report on advertising the public hearing on the 2021 budget?
The 2021 Highland Park municipal budget was introduced and approved on first reading on April 6, 2021. A summary was duly advertised in the Home News Tribune on April 16, 2021, with the public hearing scheduled for May 4, 2021. The budget was made available on the borough's website and made available for public inspection.
Okay, may I have a motion to open the public hearing on the budget?
So moved.
Second,
Okay, this is an opportunity for anyone in the public to ask a question regarding the public hearing of the 2021 budget. Please raise your hand or press star, what is it, star 9?
Yep.
So that we know you want to ask a question.
Mayor, I see no hands raised.
All right. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Do I, Borough Clerk, is this an all in favor or a vote for closing the?
I
The
think-
next one is a vote.
And Mayor, may I put on the record that there was no public comment?
Okay,
On the
so I
vote.
don't need to do a roll call on,
No, go into the resolution and then you'll.
okay, thank you very much. All right. So seeing no public hearing, may I have a motion to adopt or reject the advertising the public hearing on 2021 budget?
So moved.
To adopt.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes, and I just want to note that if anybody does have any questions about the budget or wants to examine the presentation that was given back in April, it can be found at www.hpboro.com. Thank you, Terry, for putting this together. Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Cho-Han?
Yes, and I just want to thank our professionals who have worked on this budget as well. Lori, who is slightly still kind of new, but has been diving into everything financially in our borough. So thank you.
Okay, was Stephanie the last vote?
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt the resolution? I'm sorry, may I have a motion to adopt the 2021 municipal budget and water and sewer budget on final reading by title?
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Kim Cho-Han?
Yes.
All right, and I just want to echo the thanks that both Stephanie and Matt gave to our professionals, and Terry for your hard work on the budget for this year. I know it wasn't an easy process for any of you. Thank you all very much. All
And
right,
Mayor, I'd like to just make sure I acknowledge Jerry Senkowitz, also our auditor. He's been really helpful throughout this whole process as well. So that's who this stranger is, for the record. Thank you both. And I think, can they slip into the gentle good night at your permission?
yes, they have permission to leave the meeting if they so choose.
Yes.
Thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Clerk, can you please report on the introduction of the stormwater management ordinance for consideration of passage on first reading by title?
An ordinance of the Borough of Highland Park, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 230, Article 20 of the Code of the Borough of Highland Park, 2010, concerning stormwater management.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt or reject and advertise the ordinance on first reading by title?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Just briefly for the public, the stormwater management rules were revised significantly by DEP, and they require all municipalities to adopt the new regulations. Our borough attorney has gone through them laboriously. They're over 50 pages long. They're highly complex. However, the DEP did give us the formula for it. We are required to adopt. There may be some sections that are really not relevant to us, but towns across the state have adopted them. So we are bringing ourselves into alignment with the current thinking on stormwater management. As you know, infrastructure, what's under the ground, including the stormwater, as well as gray water and water lines, has been one of our biggest concerns and will continue to be so. I vote yes.
Councilman Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to adopt items 17A through 17Q?
So moved.
Second,
Second. Terry.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera,
yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman George,
Just briefly, Mayor, I see Kate Jaggers, our Executive Director of the library, is present in the participants. Good evening, Kate. 17P on our regulation is to adopt an ordinance where we, as we did last year, for the same amount, 944, 929, $900,044. We are applying for that grant again this year. However, Kate and her staff and the board have put in a lot of effort to revitalize that, but they felt with their architect expert that we would stay the course on the amount and most of the proposal. However, we would make it more maintenance friendly, and given the experience of being closed and working remotely for the last year, Kate has come up with a lot of practical recommendations to modify last year's plan to actually be able to carry us forward with a more forward-thinking methodology. However, the thought was, in order to make it best applicable to the state's second round grants, which if we got, we would match. To keep that commitment, that we use our experience in the last year to modify the grant slightly to do the maintenance and repair and upgrade work to make us more user-friendly going forward in a remote setting. I vote yes.
Councilman Hale,
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch,
I just want to point to item 17E, resolution 521-123, the resolution to amend annual fee resolution for the summer camp program. Just quickly, after reviewing the summer camp budget, the Recreation Department felt it made sense to raise the weekly fee for Highland Park residents to $225, up from $200 this year. Basically, the reason will be because it helps offset additional expenses associated with COVID-19 precautions, while still keeping us very, very competitive with other summer camp programs. This increase, though, would not impact costs for reduced fee eligible campers, and we would keep that amount the same as last year. Other than that, I vote yes. I vote yes on everything.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt or reject the resolution to introduce the 2021 Main Street Highland Park budget and approve it on first reading and schedule a public hearing date?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera,
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster,
Yes.
Councilman George,
Yes.
Councilman Hale,
Yes, and just real quickly, this is we're moving ahead with the Main Street budget, which is pretty much a status quo budget. We're not expecting any significant changes or increases, and to keep them doing their good work. So, thank you. I vote yes.
Councilmember Hirsch,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan.
Yes.
Okay, before I get to the appointments that are next on the agenda, I just want to mention, you'll hear me appointing some people, most of whom have already been members of the Human Relations Commission. I just want to let everyone know the Human Relations Commission's chair, as mentioned earlier, Ashton Burrell has stepped down from being chair after many years of serving this community in a very admirable way with new programming and initiatives to enhance and educate our residents about each other's cultures, which is the mission of the Human Relations Commission. And so I want to take a moment to thank Ashton again for his service over the many years that he has been working. He restructured the Human Relations Commission back when he first became chair and really that group made major contributions to better understanding of our diverse population. So thank you, Ashton. All right, I'm appointing to the Human Relations Commission Pastor Greg McClendon, Austin Moriale, and Reverend Antoinette Moss. I'm appointing to the Recreation Advisory Committee as the youth representative, Dove Fine. May I have a motion to confirm?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Canavera?
Yes.
Councilwoman Foster?
Yes.
Councilman George?
Yes.
Councilman Hale?
Yes.
Councilmember Hirsch?
Yes.
Councilwoman Kim Chohan?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we're about to enter our second public participation portion of our meeting. Again, each speaker has 3 minutes, but may comment on any topic. The Borough Clerk will monitor the time and will offer a 30-second warning then indicate when 3 minutes has lapsed. The session will wrap up by 9 p.m. If you would like to speak, please raise your hand by pressing *9 on your phone keypad or select the raise hand option on Zoom. The Borough Administrator will announce your turn by reading out your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number. Please begin by telling us your first and last name as well as your address. Again, if you would like to speak about any topic, please press *9 or the raise hand button now. And again, Borough Administrator, I'm going to rely on you.
I do see a hand this time. We're still at 7 attendees, and Eric Lipton, I am unmuting you, so please just restate your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Eric Lipton. Are you sure there's no other hands first?
I am 100% sure you're it.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, I live at 123 South Adelaide, the Highlander building. I used to live on Denison Street, and I wanted to say something funny about how 5/4 is best in classical music anyway, but this is kind of serious, and it really is problematic. There's a trailer from the Police Benevolent Association that was formerly parked by the police station, but is now in full public display, featuring the thin blue line flag that was created in 2014 as an acrimonious response to Black Lives Matter. It is a racist symbol. It was created as an opposition to civil rights movement, the modern civil rights movement, the same way the Confederate flag has been used to show opposition to the 60s civil rights movement. It has no place in our town. Now, private things can, I know there's someone in town flying it proudly in their home, and that's fine, but come on. Our police has been trying to rebuild a reputation in this community with regards towards racial disparities in policing. And this is just a giant middle finger to the people of color in this town. It's gotta go. It's not about love for police. I will happily paint lots of lovely things about police on that trailer, if the trailer even is needed. I don't know what's in that trailer. The trailer was apparently so important it had to be the police, but now it's unimportant enough to be at the in back of the Provident Bank. It has no place here. And the lack of urgency since this was raised is really problematic. We would not leave a Confederate flag trailer with the words police on it in the middle of our town. We would not leave a swastika anywhere in this town. We cannot send this message to the people of color in our town that we abide this. And as long as it's there, the statement is the police and this town are not taking racism seriously. Please do something soon. Cover it in a tarp, put up a divider around it. I don't care. I know people who are looking and crying at this.
30
And
seconds.
I have written to the mayor. I have sent emails to the police. I've heard nothing back. I know this is being talked about quietly. I have been very patient, not throwing a major temper tantrum. Not that I need to. I would just love to see this taken seriously and be gone. Thank you.
Okay, so Eric, you are right that Councilwoman Foster and I have been working on this with the police. Councilwoman Foster, you wanted to say something?
Yes, as the mayor said, that this had been brought to my attention. I first heard about it from our council member Hirsch, and we started looking into this and to see how to address it. I have received the pictures. I have the same concern. I have discussed it on numerous occasions with our police chief, and I would like for the chief to share with us now what he can about this.
Chief Abrams, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay, good evening. So I want to understand by saying I hear what you're saying about the trailer, and we're working on solutions for it. The trailer does not belong to the police department. It is not a piece of equipment for the police department. It was bought by the union to assist them when they did things around town. It's been used at other events, such as our trunk or treat or National Night Out, to carry equipment and supplies. It was purchased primarily through donations from borough residents, including the wrap around it, the artwork around it, and it was used primarily to haul equipment when our officers participate in the Unity Tour police bicycle ride from New Jersey down to Washington, D.C., which precedes the Police Memorial Week in D.C. We're working on solutions. I know a cover has already been purchased for it. It had to be moved from borough property, and it was placed where it was as a stopgap until we can find space. The union can find space for it someplace else. I understand that it is causing heartache in our community. I get that, and we're working on finding a solution to alleviate that and to come to let the community know that we do care about everyone. We are not a racist police department. That we hear what you're saying, and we're going to do our best to address it the best way we can. Sorry it's taking this long, but it's impossible to just put it certain places, and we had to move it from where it was.
I would also like to add that I have been talking about this issue as well. And to me, a temporary fix of moving it from one location to the other was one location, because one of the solutions, because it was moved off of borough property and was placed onto a private property. However, it still remains that the sign, the emblem is still on the side of the trailer, and covering up to me is not an option. Covering up, it's only a temporary solution. It needs to have a much more permanent solution. So everyone who's listening, everyone who's concerned like myself, a temporary cover is only for now, but we're looking at a long-term solution to this problem.
want to thank you for that. Thank you, Chief. And Eric, I want to thank you for recognizing the efforts the police department has been making to address issues of equity. And you rightfully point out that the symbol on this van or truck or whatever it is takes away from all the good work that has been done over the last couple of years. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other people?
Mayor, Mr. Lipton has re-raised his hand. I defer to you as, oh, he took it down. Never mind. All right, then I do not see any other hands raised.
All right, then I'm going to ask that we take a 5-minute recess. Does everybody want a recess? I'm used to giving everybody a recess. Okay, so we'll take a 5-minute recess and we'll regroup here at 8:16. Thank you.
What's on the agenda for after the recess?
Ed's gonna
Session.
talk about
The work
the
session.
Bill, do you know what's on the
cannabis.
agenda?
It's cannabis and COVID-19 guidelines.
God, my head is killing me. I want to be done with this.
Hey, Elsie, if you're not feeling well, there's no reason for you to stay. You know the cannabis stuff. We've been talking about it. Richard disappeared. Okay.
No, I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm
Oh,
holding my
okay.
head.
I was
better,
talking to you and then I
Elsie.
was talking to a black space on my screen.
No, my
Okay.
beautiful picture is up there.
Okay, okay. So please, if you're not feeling well, Elsie.
All right, I'm gonna bow
See you
out.
at 5.
Okay, feel
Feel
better.
better, Elsie.
Feel better, Elsie.
Thank you.
So if we're not in person, Matt, I might join you at Borough Hall next meeting.
I mean, you know, I spoke with a legislator today who is very much on the side of public health and being COVID safe. And I mean, the way that they're feeling at the state is that, you know, we're really moving toward reopening.
Yeah. So
I know
It's a very strange thing.
we're working on a plan.
I
Yeah,
want my clients back so badly.
yeah.
This has been so horrible for them.
Hey, I spent almost 5 hours in my office at Borough Hall today. It felt so good. I only had to leave because I don't have access to Zoom on my wonderful computer there. So that's
Yeah?
why I left. It was a good
They can't put
feeling.
Zoom on your.
I don't have a microphone. I don't have a
Oh,
camera.
okay.
Camera I can plug on to here. It's,
Got it.
yeah, well, that's a whole other issue, Matt.
I was gonna stay at work today because my house is extremely noisy because my daughter and her roommate are visiting and the dog and the cat are fighting, but we don't have Wi-Fi there and none of the work computers have a microphone or a camera, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna steal Matt's idea next time when it's busy in my house.
Gary,
It's-
we're gonna have
it's-
to find spaces to space
Yeah.
people out in the building as the council members slowly come back one by one.
I mean, there's more people here during the day than there are right now.
Yeah, I know.
I'm
That's for
fully
sure.
vaccinated.
Yep. In fact,
We
here,
just have certain rules,
we'll
even
we'll
with
go in a little.
vaccination. We'll talk
we'll go in a
about that
little-
during the work session.
Look, there's partitions.
Yeah.
We're all set. Yeah, Terry. Yeah, we should go over the rules. I know. I
We're gonna do that at the work session.
I made this last minute request. It's
Be advised, we have audience members right now.
Yes.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. They can know they. This is the very real time practical stuff.
Gotten very warm.
I'm
in
glad
the
we were
house.
able to.
Can't tell.
I will say I'm glad we addressed the trailer because I have heard from residents of that.
Yes, we all have, man.
Yeah, I know. But I've been commuting. I've been going back to work. I'm the only one there. but the state is starting to do in-person hearings.
Oh.
Um,
Does that mean
yeah.
court's coming back soon?
Court, I haven't heard yet. That I don't
To
know.
brief you on that, Mayor. It's a
How
whole-
about the licensing board, Matt? I'm waiting for my license for my LSW.
Well, they still meet though, right? I mean, they're meeting virtually.
They
Are
are
they
meeting
not?
virtually, but I sent all my stuff in more than 2 months ago, and they said if it's been more than 6 weeks, send them an email, and I just get an automated response saying, do not resubmit or you will be dropped down on the list.
That sounds like something we might want to let our, yeah.
Okay,
I don't know if it takes much longer, maybe something you want to tell our state reps about.
I know my one coworker, she's been waiting over a year.
I'd like to get us back into the meeting. Elsie is not well, so she has to be excused, so she's gone. We've got Matt, we've got, my screen is popping all over the place. Matt, Stephanie, Tara,
Waiting for
Matt, and Phil, I'm sure will be back in a moment. So moving on, we're now going into our work session where no formal action is taken. I asked our borough attorney at Schmier to go over with us the requirements that are being placed on municipalities as they entertain different forms of cannabis to be allowed or not allowed in their municipalities, and the timetable, because this is something we're going to have to address. So Ed, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm sure you're all aware that the governor back in February signed a law, a 240-page long law that authorized recreational marijuana for residents who are over 21 years of age. And the regulations that will go along with this legislation are currently being worked on by the Cannabis Regulatory Committee, which was appointed recently, and will begin to develop the regulations that will implement allowing the sale of marijuana for recreational purposes. Just as a quick summary, the types of activity that are authorized or permitted under the law are in different classes, and that there are really 6 separate types of activities that a municipality, and that's the key, the delegation of allowing the recreational marijuana to take place throughout the state has been delegated to each municipality to decide whether or not any of these classes, which I'll quickly mention, should operate within your community. So under class 1, you can be they call it a cannabis cultivator, or somebody that grows marijuana. Number 2 class would be a cannabis manufacturer. That's somebody who takes the growth product and then manufactures, prepares, and then gets the cannabis item ready for distribution through the chain of distribution. Class number 3 would be the wholesaler's license. And this is someone who would work on making the cannabis available for later resale by a licensee. A cannabis distributor's license is one that someone can take the cannabis item in bulk and distribute that to the various cannabis retailers. That's the next one. Number 5, cannabis retailer, which I'm sure you can figure out what that means. And that would be the folks that would be offering the cannabis for sale in a commercial district within your town. And finally, cannabis delivery license. I guess there's going to be a cottage industry that develops, which will be involved with delivering the cannabis to those who purchase the cannabis. Just a caveat on that last one, the regulations that you can do as a local government, municipal elected officials can regulate 5 of those categories, but you have to permit cannabis delivery within your community. In other words, if you were not to permit a store to open on Woodbridge or Raritan or wherever to buy recreational marijuana, but someone in Edison did open one legally because that town permitted it, and one of your residents ordered a cannabis from that store up in Edison, you can't prohibit that store coming into the borough and delivering the product. That's the one carve out for municipal regulation. And then it goes on to provide that there's a window of 180 days after this legislation was signed in on or about February 22nd. And that date becomes important. And that date, by the way, is August 22nd of this year. And that is the date by which a municipality can, as they call it, opt out of approving for now at this time, the distribution or the sale or the cultivation or the other 5 classes of marijuana activity in your town until you decide you may want to authorize it beyond the August deadline. If you take no steps to opt out of the program now, and you always have the right to opt into the program at any time after or if you do an opt out, then automatically these types of activities will be permitted to take place in the borough. And cultivation, for example, could take place in the industrial area. The retail would take place or could take place, obviously, in the commercial area. But municipality at this time has the ability to adopt an ordinance, not a resolution, an ordinance, and have that effective before August 22nd of this year, if you elect to opt out of participating in any of these activities related to the new legislation. The thinking right now from those that we are working with about how other towns are going to implement this new law, and the advice that we're getting from the New Jersey League of Municipalities and also the Institute of Municipal or Local Government Attorneys is to recommend that municipalities adopt an ordinance to opt out of the mandatory participation in this program. If you do opt out, then the clock stops, and then we can wait and see, for example, during the same 180-day period, what the administrative agency that has to develop and provide rules and regulations by August 22nd, the same 180 days, how they envision the programs to work and what types of regulations they think would be appropriate in the municipal setting and what types of regulations might not be appropriate. So the current thinking, although not all municipalities are obviously going that direction, I think a majority of them are thinking about doing the ordinance to opt out of participation, but not to permanently opt out of the participation. You can always change course, and you can always then opt in to the participation in the program. And you can also select 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5, or 6 of the classes, or any number of those to permit in your community. But if you don't do that, then you can't take any steps for 5 years. Those folks who are in the business can come into your community and begin to implement class 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and in certain areas where it is appropriate to do so. So I think the decision point now, and there's plenty more, by the way, in the legislation. For example, the way you will regulate this, and I guess we could get our act together, or you could get your act together and I could get it done, would be to come up with a scheme that makes sense for the borough before the 22nd and begin to adopt implementing ordinances as to the type of activity that you would or wouldn't permit. But we would have to go through a number of changes to your land use regulations in order to permit this activity, which up until this legislation was prohibited. And then we would have to build in some changes, obviously, to the laws that we enforce, because we enforce laws that say you're not supposed to smoke marijuana. Now that law has been changed. So there's a lot of detail that we would have to dig into with your direction in order to create a scheme that would allow the activities to begin to happen as of August 22nd. But again, I think the advice that we are privy to, working with a number of municipalities, all facing the same types of questions, and also staying in touch with the league, and I know the mayor is very active with the league, and Mike, Sarah, and crew, that the smart thinking, I think, right now is to consider doing the opt-out ordinance, and then to have your flexibility to opt in when you want, when you have some regulations to perhaps look at the state level, and with the controls and the restrictions that you would like to place on allowing one of these, two of these, three of these classes to take place in your own town. So we would have to do all of that. Initially, there was some discussion about whether or not you could kind of put it out for bid, so to speak, and have people who were interested, for example, in the retail side, to come in and to explain to you what they're willing to pay you for the privilege of having a retail distribution center in your town. You can't do that. The state regulation is very specific, except for one category of the operation, which I think is wholesaling. The other activities that take place, you are entitled to a 2% fee, a tax, basically, a user fee on any of the materials that are either grown or not manufactured. You get a 1% fee, but particularly sold. Any of the stuff that gets sold, you would be entitled for hosting that activity to get a 2% tax that would go to you. And unlike the state, where the money that they're going to charge, they're going to collect the sales tax and they're going to collect other user fees, those monies are dedicated to certain activities. A number of them have been targeted to the municipalities, usually those that have been impacted more by the illegal use of drugs in the past, to help with rehabilitation programs, counseling, police training, and all of the above. The money you get to keep would go to your general revenue. It would be just a general revenue for the borough. You can also apply for a grant from the commission that is in the process of putting together the rules and regulations to help train the police department, because they're going to have to be trained about how to implement this law. And there's a lot of training that is going to go into this. And I think the state realized that you shouldn't have to pay for that. So grants will be available to municipalities that ask for them to help train and get the police department up to speed. But I think the decision point for you now would be certainly to answer, we can answer any questions you may have, or as this evolves, we'll continue to provide information. I think the memo that I sent up to you back in about a month or so ago was really entitled an initial report, because that's what we're doing right now. We're trying to get a handle on every nuance in the legislation, talking to our colleagues about how people are interpreting different pieces of the legislation, and then making recommendations how to move forward with recreational marijuana in various communities throughout the state. But going to evolve. I think the longer that a municipality can sit tight and to see what the regulations are going to look like. Maybe take a look at some of the issues that other towns may or may not be facing. Talk to some of the surrounding communities about how they're going to handle it. I think the better, and my recommendation would be to seriously consider the opt-out ordinance for adoption before August 22nd. That we do have an opportunity to kind of study this thing to see what develops, particularly with the regulations that the state have to hand down this summer. And then hopefully in the fall, get to the point where you can make your policy decision about what you want to permit or not permit. If you wanted to prohibit permanently any marijuana, recreational marijuana distribution, growth, wholesaling, et cetera, you have the right to do that. And some towns have already come out to say, we're going to opt out and we're going to stay out because they don't want to host any of the recreational marijuana. But you could certainly opt out for a period of time and then eventually opt in if that's the direction that the borough wanted to go. So that's kind of an overview of what I would see as next steps for the governing body. Madam Mayor.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions, and then I'm sure other council members have questions as well. So first of all, I just want to confirm that a testing lab would fall under the manufacturer definition or category of this. Is that correct?
Well, it probably would, but we would define it that way to make sure.
Okay. And then if a municipality opts out initially, how long do they have to wait to opt back in?
There's no waiting period.
Okay. And in listening to what you had to say, is it true that, so let me back up a second. So a couple of years ago or a year ago, I can't even tell anymore how long it's been, there was a company that approached us about a pharmaceutical retail store for marijuana. And besides the tax that they knew the state was going to put on the product, they were willing to give us quite a large sum of community benefit funds that would be able to be used by us for a specifically identified needs within the community. Did that go away with this? Are they no longer able to give us community benefit funds?
Under the new legislation, that went away. In other words, the way you implement this is, as I indicated, through your zoning regulations. And you can't buy zoning regulations. So when this legislation was adopted, the idea of having individual folks approach different towns and make different proposals or offers to give them money, even for good, wonderful purposes, that idea got shelved.
Gotcha. And then my last question is related to, I mean, I could reach out to the mayors of surrounding municipalities and see what they're doing or what they're thinking. But is the state going to make public the municipalities that are opting in right away? And the reason I ask that, if we opt out and let's say Metuchen or Edison or New Brunswick opts in, does that then indicate that to the businesses that want to open, why should I go to Highland Park if they're opting out and other municipalities are already ready to go? Good.
And that's a fair question. And I've heard that raised by some other mayors of boroughs in this area to say that you might miss the boat. And I'm not aware of any registry that there's going to be for all the towns that opt out or opt in. I think it's probably going to be word of mouth, maybe tracked by the New Jersey League of Municipalities. I think they're intending to do that.
Yeah.
But that's why, again, as you mentioned, that it might make sense. And certainly some of the borough mayors in this area down here in Mercer County have started those conversations with their neighboring municipalities, just to find out if we were to opt out and you were to opt in, why wouldn't somebody go to your borough and not my borough when we get off the dime in the fall, when somebody can make a commitment to these folks in the summer, and they might be interested in opening up and servicing your residents. Just as I mentioned, that one's category 6 about the delivery services.
Right.
That's going to take place. You
Anyway.
can't say, stop, you can't come across my border. And if you don't do it, but Metuchen does it, your folks may be buying all of the recreational marijuana in Metuchen and having it delivered
And getting all the tax benefits.
and getting all that right, correct.
And Phil, I see you have your hand up. Just one last thing. And Matt Hale has a better handle on this number, but everyone should be aware that in the election, when this was on the ballot, in Highland Park, I think the number was over 70% of the voters wanted recreational marijuana here. Matt, have I got that number right?
Close, Mayor. We're of all the municipalities in Middlesex County, we were the second highest pro vote in next to New Brunswick. I think the college students got together and made New Brunswick have a little bit higher yes vote than we did, but we were right around 70%. So the vast majority of voters in Highland Park clearly wanted to have recreational cannabis. So there's of all of the towns in Middlesex County, we're essentially tied for second, right behind New Brunswick, in terms of the most in favor of the proposition.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Okay, Phil, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, Ed. If we didn't adopt the safe harbor provision within the first 180 days, you said that any one of the 6 categories could begin. Would they be subject to any kind of zoning regulations, though? For instance, no recreational consumption or sale within 500 feet of a school or a church? Because from what I heard you saying, if we don't opt out and adopt the safe harbor rule, then basically our zoning regulations can no longer apply to any of the 6 categories?
No, you would have to be guided by what is in the state legislation. For example, they would have to adhere to 1,000-foot distance, not near a school or a house of worship. That's in the state legislation. So that would happen. But they would be considered, as long as they go into a zone, for example, the retail zone, where you have your central business district and what's permitted down there, they would be considered a retailer. And then they would have to adhere to whatever a retailer, somebody selling shoes or whatever they're selling on Woodbridge or Raritan, and they would have to adhere to the same regulations, plus whatever is in the state legislation.
The other question I have kind of relates to a third question. I'm less concerned about regulating, passing the safe harbor, because it's a zoning regulations. It would have to go to the planning board anyway, right? So we're looking at July if we start next meeting. But if we wanted to make zoning changes to make things work, the way we want them in Highland, we think is appropriate in Highland Park, we'd have to do the same amount of work to get it done before August, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, my bigger issue, though, is the smoking issue. And recreational use on the street. And I'll give an example to council that I got a call on over the weekend. I represent the largest Hispanic party restaurant and club in a certain city. And they had, and I've had this, I've talked about this scenario time and time again. A family of 5 with 3 little kids are there for dinner. Couple comes in next door and they start smoking marijuana. And the parents say, the clouds are drifting over to my kids. Would you mind putting that out? And the patron said no. So the restaurant asked them to leave. The next day, the police called and said they were going to fine the restaurant because they told them. So my question is, how does, I understand the smoking regulations talk about smoking in public places. What do we need to do as a council to make the decisions about how we're going to regulate that, if we're going to regulate it? And then what do we do? And do we have to do it before August, again, with this same August 22nd deadline?
Well, the answer, Phil, would be, and that's something we'd recommend anyway, to amend the no smoking ordinance for the borough to include smoking marijuana cigarettes. And we would lump them in with just a regular old nicotine cigarette. And they would be, they'd have to adhere to that. And if you've had that experience with enforcement and they don't allow a restaurant in their own restaurant to throw somebody out for smoking, I think we could move ahead certainly. And we could, I mean, the amendment to the smoking ordinance would be simple. We would just amend it to include a marijuana cigarette. And then it could be enforced by our local restaurants and our local police department. And we could clearly do that before August.
Okay, thank you.
I believe the chief is still at the work session. Chief? Chief?
I don't think he.
His name is there.
Yeah, he told me he was.
I'm here. It took me a second. Took me a second to get to the mute button.
Okay, so Rick, I wanted to ask you to explain, because it's kind of relative to the smoke discussion we were just having, smoking discussion we were just having.
Right.
About marijuana on streets here in Highland Park. And I know we had a situation in town recently regarding a resident complaint of someone outside their house and
Yeah. They're walking in the woods.
correct.
Yep.
And could you explain to the council the situation regarding what the police can and can't do regarding complaints of marijuana?
Right. So it's a little bit different than what Mr. Schmier was talking about as far as enforcing someone being removed for smoking marijuana. The way the law is written right now, the odor of marijuana is no longer probable cause or even reasonable suspicion for a stop. So getting a complaint of someone smoking marijuana in a place where they're not supposed to be smoking becomes almost impossible to enforce because you can't use your sense of smell to locate the person who is using the marijuana. Now, right now in New Jersey, yes, the smoking of marijuana itself is legal, but they have not yet created the infrastructure to produce legal cannabis. So even though it's legal to smoke it, it's still illegal to possess it in New Jersey, which makes it really confusing and really hard to enforce. Because you're going up to somebody who's smoking marijuana and saying, well, yeah, you can smoke it, but you can't possess it. I need to take it from you. That's contraband. It's not New Jersey legal because it hasn't gone through the New Jersey process of being cultivated, processed, tested, taxed, and sold in New Jersey. It's a nightmare for us on every level. So, not being able to use that odor, which everybody knows what that smells like, it permeates everything, makes it almost impossible to deal with a criminal act where you're starting off from the word go as it being a marijuana type call. Right now, this could change, who knows when, but that's where we're at now as far as our difficulties with enforcing it.
Rick, if I could ask you, I mean, under Phil's illustration, if we change the local ordinance about no smoking And we specifically included marijuana cigarettes even before they should be smoked in New Jersey. And you walked in and
Right.
found somebody sitting at Pino's smoking a cigarette as clear as a bell, you could enforce that local ordinance, correct?
Correct. We were told that any ordinance for smoking now is for marijuana and tobacco. Smoking is smoking. That's how it was explained to us at a chief's meeting. So I don't understand how what happened, that what
I don't
the
either.
council president brought up. I don't understand. It must have been some kind of borough ordinance or a city law. We couldn't do that. We wouldn't charge a restaurant with anything following removing any customers that they didn't want in there. That the restaurant has the right to remove a customer as long as it's not for a bias type reason. So I don't know how that happened. I wouldn't see that happening here. My officers, I don't think would do that on its face. There might have been other underlying conditions that were present that made that happen. I don't know the details of it, but as it stands now, as far as we were taught, if you can't smoke tobacco, you can't smoke marijuana. It's one and the same now. They're considered to be the same thing. So I mean, we could add the marijuana or the cannabis language to our borough ordinances, but I don't really think we would need to. I think we could just say no smoking, and that goes, across the board.
I think what you're saying, Rick, is we could currently enforce it if some character walked in with a marijuana cigarette and wouldn't leave one of our restaurants. They're
Correct.
smoking, and
Correct. As
they
it
can be
stands
thrown
now.
out.
Yeah, as it stands now, my officers have been told to treat marijuana like any tobacco product. And if they're not allowed to smoke tobacco in a restaurant, then they're not allowed to smoke marijuana. They wouldn't be arrested for marijuana or ticketed for marijuana. They'd be given a ticket for smoking. We have a borough ordinance that prohibits smoking on borough property. If someone was on borough property and was smoking marijuana, and we could see them, and our entire probable cause is based on vision, not caring whether it was marijuana or tobacco, then my officers could go and issue a summons for smoking on borough property, not caring what they were smoking. So that's the way we're handling now in the borough. If it's a prohibited area for smoking, you can't smoke anything. And an interesting thing about this law is the homeowner or the building owner can set the rules. So if you're in an apartment and you rent an apartment and you want to smoke marijuana, but your apartment management company, based on the owner's direction, says you cannot smoke marijuana in the apartment, then you can have it, you can store it, you can do whatever else you can, but you can't actually smoke it in your own apartment.
And we're 60% rentals here.
Correct. And that's going to be another tricky thing to enforce if it ever comes down to it. I don't know why they made that distinction on that particular thing from tobacco, but that's right now, that's how it stands. The building owner has the right to prohibit the smoking of marijuana on its premises, even in an apartment building.
Matt, Hirsch, you have your hand up?
I mean, I think just realistically speaking, though, how many citations do the police give out for
We don't.
complaints
We
about
really-
cigarette
we really-
smoking in apartments, right?
Yeah, we don't.
Right.
We don't. But for something like that, if a resident did call, in the past we've gotten complaints about people smoking marijuana in apartment buildings, in which case we would go and investigate, because at that time it was illegal to smoke marijuana at all. But now I don't know if it'd be a code enforcement or a law enforcement thing if somebody violates their building ordinance on whether they can or they cannot smoke. We haven't been given any guidance on that, or would it just be something that's civil and goes towards eviction or non-renewal of a lease? I don't know.
It sounds like it would just be a lease violation.
Possibly,
Well,
yeah.
But then there's also a record, like, how do you get it? How do we know which buildings are saying yes to marijuana and which are saying no to marijuana? I mean, we have to have some record of that, right?
Well, probably what would happen is we would take information from all parties involved and follow up the building owner in the future. I mean, it's not an arrest. It's
right.
It's it's a equivalent to a traffic ticket. Nobody's getting arrested and brought into headquarters or anything, but with that kind of violation, and like I said, I don't know if that would be something that code enforcement does after the fact, after the police gather the information, or something the police are going to have to do. As far as I know, nobody's really had to deal with that yet. But
I mean,
you
it
know,
would be,
if you rent
yeah,
a house from somebody and the guy who owns the house or the girl who owns the house says you can't smoke marijuana in the house you're renting, and you're smoking marijuana in the house you're renting, and you know, they come to for some reason and they smell it and they call us, I honestly don't know how we would handle it. To me personally, I think it's civil. I don't think it's criminal at all. But until we get better guidance, it's, you know, something we're gonna have to investigate, which is going to be, you know, contact with police, which is never good, you know, in a negative way, which is never good for anybody. You know, I think frankly it's kind of unfair, but that's, you know, I didn't make the law.
well, wouldn't it be treated the same way as simply somebody complaining about somebody smoking in an apartment? If someone called dispatch
Right now, you're
regarding smoking, you wouldn't show up.
Well, it's different with the marijuana because that's specifically in the statute where you can't do that. So I don't know what the reporting requirements would be. Like right now, a building owner cannot tell you you can't smoke cigarettes in the apartment you rent.
Right.
You know, they might tell you when you rent it initially, it's a non-smoking apartment or something. I don't know, but you're not going to call the cops if that happens, like you said. So I don't know what the answer is, Matt. You know, that's one of the questions that the chiefs have that we're going back and forth. In fact, we have a call tomorrow with police departments, the New Jersey Chiefs Association with police departments in California, with a question and answer thing, or maybe it was Colorado, with a question and answer thing. Like, all right, it's been legal in Colorado for so many years. What are some of the problems that you're having? How are you dealing with it? What's, you know, what are your best solutions? You know, just to try to get a handle on this as we go forward, because this is completely uncharted territory.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a follow-up. I'm sorry. I did have my hand raised before, but I had my electronic
Okay,
hand.
and I also have, you do your follow-up, Matt. You just.
Yeah. No, I think the order was, I think I had my hand up first and then Matt Hale and then
Well,
Tara.
Tara has had it up for a while, so.
Yes.
So
Yes, I had my hand up first.
Follow up, and then Tara will let you go, and then.
That's like Horseshack.
I know, right. Well, the chief knows I support this, so yeah, it's I mean, I would just thank you, Chief, for answering those questions. I mean, we've immediately jumped to the law enforcement component of this, and I do think that that's probably not the best lens through which to craft.
I agree.
Policy. Yeah. Thank you, Chief. So I mean, I do, you know, and you know, thank you, Ed, for your report too. I know the League of Municipalities, you know, really lobbies hard for home rule, but I don't think that has provided Highland Park with really any kind of security ever. It's hurt us. We by kind of sheltering ourselves from this industry, even for a short time, I think would really negatively impact us, particularly at a time when our downtown really needs you know, a real boost coming out of this pandemic. And this is an industry that I know that we've had a lot of interest in from prospective retailers and industrialists. So I would be more interested in looking at this policy through a lens of community benefit, particularly if there is industry coming, you know, if there is industrial interest in Highland Park, you know, what kind of community benefits are there for our town. And then from a retail license, I mean, at the gate, I would just in my opinion, I would not opt out of the cannabis retail license, the class 5. I think we have to open our downtown right away because we're going to get usurped by neighboring communities. So that's it. I might have more questions later, but that's it for now.
All right, Tara, and then Matt.
And then me.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Mine wasn't technically a question. It was just, as Matt was saying, enforcement of somebody smoking in an apartment. Like, I live in an apartment complex. I can walk out my door right now and I will smell marijuana.
Mhm.
I could not tell you which apartment it was coming from at all. And so enforcing, you know, somebody smoking, maybe if it's a private home with only 1 or 2 apartments, but most of our complexes are not going to be affected by a landlord saying you can't smoke in marijuana in the apartment. So I just wanted to point out, it's really not going to be a big issue, I don't feel. That's it.
Okay, Matt Hale?
Yeah, I really would strongly argue that we do not move to opt out, even as we're waiting for things. I think that we have a number of things that are going to be challenges for us. If the state is saying 1,000 feet from a synagogue or a school or a church, that doesn't leave us a whole bunch of open spots as it is. I mean, we got a lot of synagogues, we got a lot of churches, and we got a fair number of schools. And so, you know, if we're talking about sort of waiting, and I just think that's a recipe for us to get left behind, and especially when so overwhelmingly our residents voted in favor of this. And so I think it should be incumbent upon us to do what we need to do to get ready ahead of time, and not be opting out and not waiting for things down the line. I think there's a bunch of things that we can do. Whether or not we need to add marijuana to our non-smoking ordinance, not many people do that, but I think we should make it clear that sort of walking down the street smoking marijuana is not what we want in this town. Just like we don't want walking down the street or not walking down the street, but smoking cigarettes in sort of this similar way. I think that's an easy thing. I think that we have, in terms of other ordinances, we have ordinances about public consumption of alcohol. Those could be added to public consumption of marijuana if that's a particular concern. I think that we certainly could use the tax revenue that would come in from this across the board. I certainly think that there's a great deal of potential for that. I think that if we're ready to go, and I think we should be able to be ready to go in time, I think we ought to push forward and try and make that happen. I think we could make some debate or some question over whether we want growers. There's some ancillary potential problems with growers. You grow it and it can smell. I don't know if we can restrict based on that, but my instinct is to say no, that we should just make Highland Park ready for this new industry and capitalize as much as we can on this new legal industry. So I really would hope we would move in that direction, and I hope that we don't decide to opt out. I do think that one thing I didn't get from your very good memo, Ed, and maybe this is a question, is there any one of the selling points for this legislation was the number of licenses for various cannabis products and all up and down that chain, or that there was going to be a significant amount set aside for the communities that had actually been hurt by having marijuana illegal. So set asides for minority and women-owned and veterans-owned businesses. Is there anything that Highland Park can do to enhance that, or is that going to be done by the CRC? Is there anything that we can do to sort of make sure that we're encouraging those types of businesses to come to Highland Park? And is there anything that you've heard or seen from the state that we might be able to do when it comes to record expungement, when it comes to getting rid of past criminal convictions? Because I think that's another really important part of this. And I want to make sure that we're not sort of just focusing on the economic benefits, not just focusing on the criminal issues, but focused on sort of the social justice issues that I think are important. And I just want to make sure that we're highlighting those. But I really, really hope that we move ahead with this as fast as we can to change what we need to change, so that Highland Park is ready to go as soon as they can. So,
Stephanie and then Phil.
Yeah, I think both Matt said everything. Mayor, you asked, will there probably be a list, as I think you're saying, like municipalities that's open? I think on probably August 23rd, NJ.com will compile a list that says who's open and who's not. To be perfectly honest and transparent, so you guys know I'm in banking. We're one of the 2 banks that are open in the state that have been dealing with marijuana customers. So our president and CEO is part of the New Jersey Cannabis Association, who compiles all of that information, and it's going to be shared within the network of people in this area. So I think we don't want to miss that as well too. When I got that email about Danella, and I had emailed some people over there and said, I guess you guys are like, just had little conversations with them, because it's, people are going to look at that, and they're, 6 months from now, when your business is going well in New Brunswick, you're not going to close your storefront and try to look for a new location or even expand. You're going to try to expand where you are, and you have that experience with that town, and it's going well. You're like, it just is not going to work. I think we should be open, although we're kind of small and we have a lot of restrictions already, but I think we should just do it.
Yeah, we should not make it hard. We should do the reverse. I agree. Stephanie, that was brilliant. Yeah, we need to do the opposite of what we did with the vape shops, for example.
Yep.
We need to encourage.
Bill, you had a question or a comment?
An observation. I think at this point, especially given when I asked Ed, it would take us just as long to adopt this before August as it would be to fine tune our ordinances and be open and ready for business when the commission makes its decisions, or even before then. I see no reason why we don't start implementing our zoning and anti-smoking and anti-public places now. Forget the safe harbor. If it's going to take the same amount of time because of planning board review and the process and everything, let's get started. Why wait around? But this way, we're also landing on our 2 feet properly. We're ready to move ahead. We've got the ordinances in place that we can actually say to a prospective business, yeah, here we are. Here's what you have. Here's our regulations. Here's a little synopsis of it. And here are the locations. Here's the blackout maps and so on and so forth. And we're ready to go. And everybody else is still talking about, well, should we allow it or not? We've got our smoking bans in place. So retail and the consumption lounges know what they have to do and when and where. Let's get going.
Okay. And Terry, you have your hand up.
I just had, and I apologize because I go right to practical because I'm thinking like, how would this work? I want to, and maybe it was covered, Ed, but I just want to clarify, because this is in my head. If we, or the council and the mayor opted not to do anything, meaning we're not opting out and we're not opting in, we're just doing absolutely nothing. This is just my hypothetical. You're saying it would basically make those various 6 classes of uses allowed in Highland Park, just to make sure I'm understanding it, in the zones that they would relate to. I'm going into land use, like the retail I understood. Okay, retail would be allowed in retail. So I just wanted to know, I'm just really trying to understand if we just said, hey, we're okay with all 6 classes and we're going to just let it ride or I guess I want to understand how it relates to the different zoning for those various classes.
Well, the retail you just mentioned, that's easy.
That's easy because it's got the word retail, and we have retail as a permitted use in various areas. Right. And so that's
but the other activities like the cultivation, the manufacturing, et cetera, could take place in any zone that's zoned industrial.
Okay.
You couldn't be growing marijuana.
So the legislation at least goes as far as to kind of assign use categories for those. Right. Those. Okay.
Logically where it belongs. Right.
Okay. And then my related question was because I'm very all too familiar with what we call our drug-free school zone, but really is that 1,000-foot map that everybody's been referring to. Does that apply only to the retail and consumption side of things, or is that for all uses? Because I think that's relevant.
I'll check that. I believe it's for all uses.
Because that could be a challenge because of the spatial needs for some of these.
And-
And that's something we can't trump. If we
Right,
want.
and that's a good segue, Terry. I think there's some things that we need to get ready for. We need to identify our houses of worship and our schools, and where 1,000 feet in any direction from them is.
We have that map, Mayor. As,
Okay,
yeah.
right,
Mhm,
right. So that's one start.
mhm.
The second thing is, do we need to change our zoning at all? And that's something I guess we need some guidance from Ed or Joe Bauman on, in terms of current zoning for retail. Does that mean only a retail marijuana facility can be there, or could a retail and
Growing. Could you have a
right,
hydroponic growing thing in a
yeah,
retail
right,
space?
right. You know, I think we need a better understanding of that. Ed, is that something you can help us with?
Yes, in other words, we would go into permitted uses and accessory uses in the various zones. And
Right.
then you would tell us what I mean, it would be clear about retail. You would put that in your central business district zone. If
Right,
you wanted to put hydroponics or something else in there, we would add that. But the way to do it, and it's not that involved, would be just to open up that section of chapter 230 and put in different zones where you want to permit what you want to permit. It's not a big deal.
okay, okay, good. So my sense is from all of us here is that this is something we need to pursue. And in conversations I've had with each of you individually, we need to pursue it aggressively. So so I think that we need to get started on the zoning, on what the different ordinances are that would affect this. Let's pull it all together and figure out what we have to do administratively to make this happen.
So, Mayor, I think the chief has his hand up.
Oh,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry.
thank you, Chief.
Yeah, so just to touch to what Matt Hale said earlier, there are provisions that have been handed out to the courts to vacate certain marijuana offenses that are pending, and certain cases that have already been adjudicated and people are serving sentences on. So that is something that they are working on. Just so you know, I didn't want you to think that wasn't part of the bills or the laws.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Matt Hirsch.
When it comes to crafting, thank you, Mayor. When it comes to crafting an ordinance, are there, I am wary of the League of Municipalities kind of approach to this. Are there, I'm wondering if we can look for other reputable, if we're looking for model ordinances and kind of, and how to move forward, if there are other organizations that we can identify, other policy organizations that we
I
can
don't know
identify.
if we even need an ordinance that would be, what a marijuana ordinance. It sounded to me, Matt, and listening to Ed, that what we need to do is modify existing ordinances. Ed, am I
Okay.
wrong?
You're correct. And Matt, you're gonna be the model ordinance.
Well, yeah,
In
and
other
that's,
words, if
yeah,
we
well,
work through, and I get the message and I'm on board 100%, we'll do it. But we're gonna have to go dissect the various sections of current ordinances, come up with amendments to those, and kind of build what you want to do based on an ordinance that we will put together, get you in plenty of time to review and comment on, and where you're going to give me some direction and we'll put it together. But I think at the end of the day, I think you're going to be the model ordinance.
so I guess I'll just pivot to our economic development chair over here, Mr. Hale, Councilman Hale. If there are, I wouldn't want to miss, I mean, if we do have to make changes, there may be things that we're missing when it comes to some of the things that you just addressed, actually, so maybe we just should keep our eyes open for that.
Yeah, I was actually wondering if Stephanie, you said that you know people who are in the cannabis business on the business side of things. I'm wondering if they may have thoughts that they could help us inform ordinances or things like that. If there's, I know there's the league has ones that are coming or not there, but there may also be some business ones. But I certainly think that we can craft them and be the model ordinances. I think we can do that. I do, to Terry's point, want to make sure that we understand what the process for doing that is going to be, so that we can be as efficient as possible. And so is the idea that Ed is going to craft those, or Terry's going to craft those? Is the Economic Development Committee going to craft those? Are we going to do it together? I just some guidance on the steps that we need to take.
So I
mean,
thought that to answer
yeah.
your question, I'm sorry for interrupting. Ed is really the one that needs to pull together everything that he heard us talking about. He's the one that has to look at our existing ordinances, see what has to be changed, and or create something new if it's necessary. So he's the one that's going to, process-wise, that is going to have to take this discussion and adjust and take a look at the existing ordinances that are impacted with this. Then he'll come back to us.
So my next question is sorry, Terry, let me just get one in, is as that process is going forward, would it be appropriate to have Ed bring those to the Economic Development Committee and have us make a yes, no, thumbs down, move this, do that? Or do we bring it to the entire council? If it's a technical issue like that, it may be faster to have the Economic Development Committee sort of weigh in, as opposed to bringing it to all of the council in a work session like this, because we don't have that many before August. So we normally send things to committee first, and I'm wondering if that's a mechanism for doing it. it doesn't have to be. I just thought that might be able to move things quick.
Matt, I'm not sure if, and I guess, Ed, I need some guidance on this. Is this something that would be done at the Economic Development Committee in cooperation with the Admin Committee? Or would it go, can I bring those two committees together to work on something like this? I mean, it basically is just adding Phil into the mix because he's part of the Admin Committee.
Just as a reminder too, it's zoning, so it's got to go to the planning board. So we need to allow that timeline.
Right, and that's just my sense is that if we can bring it to a committee, it doesn't matter what committee, but I mean, I think economic development is the one to do it. If we bring it to a committee to make the guidance towards Ed, then we bring it to the full council to make the decisions, and then we bring it to the planning board. So there might be some interim decisions that the Economic Development Committee or the Admin Committee can make so that we can move ahead a little bit faster, rather than coming all the way back to council every time.
Yeah.
I think it's a good suggestion to team up with the Admin Committee and the Economic Development Committee as we're going through the drafting process, so that we can share that information and the committees could discuss it and give us some final direction or say no or yes. At the outset, I think somebody said they had a reservation about one class of activity that you may or may not want to permit in the borough. So you're going to have to make that call. If you're happy with all 6 of them, well, we can put them in. But at some point in time, the Admin Committee and the Economic Development Committee might come to look at it all and say, well, we don't believe a wholesaler should be, we don't have a big we don't have the wholesalers and the cultivators go in, for the most part, big warehouses. They're all over the place. We're looking for big warehouses right now. I don't know if you have any big warehouses in your industrial section. You probably don't. So maybe you don't, that's not an important element of the classes that you'd like to bring in here. And it would be good for us to have a sounding board to show it to you. And then you come back to us to say, we don't need this class at this time. and let's not put it in or put them all in. So it would be good to have a sounding board.
Okay.
Mayor, I just was gonna offer, I do have a background in land use as in my prior, so I think I can work closely with Ed, as can our planners, because I think there's most of where the crux of this is gonna come down to the zoning and the
Right.
uses and where it's appropriate. And I think as professionals, we can kind of do the first wave of a recommendation of what we think would work to try to keep this moving ahead. And then we'll follow whatever committee path you put forward for us. But I just want to let you know, I tend to think, given this feedback, I think we can be pretty, efficient with this. We don't have to make this an exhausting,
Yeah.
given the sense of this, but
Let's try to be nimble on this.
I'm getting that vibe, but I think if we just keep we can probably narrow it down. It's going to come to one or two things. Which we do go this way? Do we go that way? And then we get the feedback, and we move it ahead. So
Okay, that sounds good, Terry. And Tara.
I just need to step away for a few minutes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
And Mayor, can I just say too, and although we may not have area for warehousing, but our neighbors do, which
yes, we know about their
and oftentimes you know how that ends up. But with all of us, it's like the summertime now, we're not going to meet again. I don't know, should we schedule a special meeting, or how does that work with scheduling?
We can schedule special meetings if we don't want to wait for a regular meeting. And in fact, I think that's probably a good idea anyway, because the amount of time I think that will be involved. You can see how much time we've spent on this tonight. This is just the work session. So we probably do want to consider a special meeting for cannabis.
The other boards that Matt is liaison to, and they have, for them right now with redevelopment and stuff, I feel bad, but I mean, it's like another night. I don't know.
I believe a special meeting on cannabis is called a session.
Thank you for that, Matt Hirsch.
I have a background. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. In land use. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
All right, so we'll get on it.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda, are you all awake enough to keep going?
I have a lot on this, Mayor.
Long. Yeah, I don't think that's as long anyway.
Okay. Terry, can you take us through the COVID-19 guidelines?
Basically, I think the mayor said it really well in her report. Kind of the state is opening up gradually, incrementally. We're seeing these trends, and we too are looking at, in particular, I'm focused on, and with the mayor's support and guidance on, how to open up the borough buildings. And we're looking at, what various aspects that would include, not just coming in to do day-to-day things, but also but we have to think through the impacts on courts, on council meetings, all of that thing. I just wanted you to know we're thinking about, I've actually already started talking with the Board of Health about, getting some input on how and when to pull the trigger on these questions. But clearly one of the things we're going to want to see, which is what we're seeing right now, vaccination rates going up, case rates going down, infection rates going down. And as long as we maintain that, and certainly as our own borough employees are themselves getting vaccinated, we're going to be increasingly comfortable with opening our front doors. So I wasn't going to, unless the mayor wanted me to go into more detail, especially given the last conversation. I just wanted you to know it's on our minds. We're just trying to figure out, I want to give the departments enough time to kind of adapt we've been closed for a while, so it's going to take a little getting used to, and we might do kind of a soft launch like the library has recently announced, where they'll be more open for in-person services, but we're going to still try to encourage using the drop-off boxes, payment online, all of those things, because that benefits everybody as we still try to recover from this pandemic. So you'll hear more from me, and we'll certainly make that information available to the public once we've made final decisions. But we know we got fireworks coming up. We know we've got there's going to be some increasing demands to reactivate, and we want to be smart about how we do it and have kind of a rational, calm way, we roll forward and incrementally add on to what we're doing.
Thank you.
Terry, I have a question. Can we, I know, everyone's doing it, even my job doing it, but I'm not sure what like government jobs, can we offer like an incentive for vaccination?
I've been debating that. I know in other states, I've seen like Maryland's offering state employees $100 if you get the vaccine. Yeah. I kind of at the point, because I'll just be very candid, a lot of employees have been vaccinated for a while because a lot of are essential workers, like the police department. And so I'm not convinced, I'll just be plain, that a financial incentive is going to tip somebody who's been eligible for a while and just hadn't gotten around to it. But I'm kicking it around. I'm debating that also because I personally would want to give that incentive out to anybody who had already gotten vaccinated on their own. And so is it worth the expense, for the extra 5 people? That's kind of my internal debate. But I've been thinking about it, also looking at our policies to see if there's ways we can add perks to vaccinated versus not vaccinated, things like that, things like we've been discussing, even what you hear in the national discussion, hey, take your mask off when you're walking around. It's okay when you're outside, if you're vaccinated, things like that. And I honestly, I have to run a number of ideas past our labor attorney just to make sure we don't cross any lines of appropriateness. But we're certainly, so if you have any creative ideas, I'm open, but I feel like we're kind of at a plateau. At least this is based on my kind of casual knowledge of where different employees are. And some are just legitimately uncomfortable with the vaccine. And I'm not sure a $50 or $100 coupon would tip that balance, but I'm open.
What if we offered them a 20% discount at our marijuana store?
All right, well, I'm open. I mean, it'll be a IOU of a considerable nature. But anyway, I did think the shot and whatever the thing the governor announced was cute, but I don't know.
The beer,
whatever that thing was. It had a catchy tune.
A shot and a beer.
But I we have to be careful. There's one thing to encourage. It's another thing. So that's where we are. But we are definitely thinking about it, to your original question, Stephanie. And I was just discussing it with Emma earlier. If you have any ideas, because I've been reading about.
Well, ours at my job you're getting days off. You get an extra vacation time,
right? If
you send your proof.
Yeah. So again, it creates some I feel like I'd have to do for everybody. Yeah, I can create some management challenges if all of a sudden everybody's got extra days. But it's something we're open to. But I feel like we've gotten a lot of our employees are just on their own. We're motivated, and so just like the national, like what will tip someone? I'm hopeful maybe if there's more local clinics, just to make it on your way in, just get it done, or whatever. Mm-hmm. There those kinds of things also. I think we have to try it from every level.
Yeah.
Would the borough is the borough permitted, or would they consider, posting flyers and how to get your shot, in the.
I've been sending emails around. I mean, I do to the borough email list. I've been, before even now where there were no restrictions, I was promoting the community center services. I was promoting all of that. I think we're now at a point where the borough itself is experiencing the same thing that every place is experiencing. There was that kind of initial surge, and now it's like, okay, what are the mechanisms that are going to convince the rest of them? I don't know what % we're at, because I'm not allowed to require you to report that to me, but you can kind of tell from talking to people kind of where we are. And so I think we're in a similar position, and we're just it's something I've talked with the police department about over time too. How can we, what kind of incentives can we throw out there? But, we have to be cautious, because if someone got sick after we kind of encouraged it, what's our liability? Those are all things that our lawyers warn us about. And so we have to juggle those things.
And Terry, I know we had a policy, right? Did we update that for the vaccinated employees?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the incentives was, okay, you don't have to quarantine if you travel.
Mhm.
You know, now if you travel, you still have to, the quarantine periods have been reduced, but there's still certain, it's a drag. So, you know, that's what I was saying with policies. Maybe there's ways, just like, why don't you just get vaccinated? You don't have to deal with this anymore. You know, wouldn't it be nice? You know, that kind of stuff. So we are definitely open to those ideas. But again, I'm also cautious about, I think some of the resistance is at kind of a very personal level with some people, and there's only so much I can do to effectuate that absent a mandate.
Tara?
I just wanted to let you know, if you want to send an email to the employees, that Thursday, Norma Bowe will be vaccinating at the Reformed Church again, and they are taking walk-ins. They'll even send a van to pick up anybody who needs a ride.
Thank you.
Yes, Matt Hirsch.
Terry, if there are municipal employees who are unvaccinated, I understand that, you know, we can't get into that business, but would they be prevented though from participating in some of the activities, indoor activities that vaccinated folks can? And if so, how do we determine that?
No, because indoor, the current guidance is continue to mask regardless of vaccination status.
It's mask.
So,
Okay.
so that's why you see me walking around with my mask on. I personally am vaccinated, but
Right.
so right now, because there is,
Me too.
it's not
I wouldn't be here if
100%.
I weren't.
It's not 100%. You're not going to transmit. So until that guidance eases, indoor, we're playing it real cautious. And there are some people who can't, like we've talked about, and the mayor mentioned in a report, I have employees who are allergic, they cannot get vaccines. And so is it fair to them that they have to mask up the whole time? And, you know, so those are all things we're trying to sort through. And it's as you can tell by every mayor's report and email, the ground shifts every week with what opens, what the CDC said, and we just try to keep up. But I also try not to make it like crazy for people. We're going to ease into these changes, you know, because it's hard to keep up, and you want to be smart about it, and you don't want to regret easing and then have to take it away. You know, I'd rather just, you know, I have a lot of questions for the CDC if I could get someone in the room, but you know, they're slow to release some of that guidance as well.
I mean, so many of our municipal employees are really public facing, you know, our first responders, the police, you know, at the clerk's desk. So, I mean, I think anything that we can do to strongly encourage the municipal employees get their vaccines is good. Just like the signs downtown where, you know, it's masks, where it says masks are a must.
The
Well, that might
former
be an
signs
overstatement a little
downtown,
bit.
those are gone now, Matt.
They're gone, right, yeah.
We're trying
The
to come
signs
up
formerly known as Mask Up Downtown.
Right, right.
We're trying to come up with a creative new version.
Vax up, people. I don't know, you know, whatever that wants to say.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody have anything they want to add to their goals, achievements at all? Please say no.
No.
Okay. We don't have an executive session, so may I have a motion to adjourn?
So
Motion.
moved. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Night, everybody.
Right.
Good job.